You don't really interview. Can you tell us why that is?
You want people to listen to music, you've got to be the whole package. I just want it to be the music. I like the song. I love the song. I love it so much. I'm so proud of it. But the song has started to define me. Beyonce hasn't done that. Ariana hasn't done that. Nicki Minaj and Taylor Swift, they've never done what that song has done. I wanted to be a busker. That's all I wanted. I just knew that if my job was to get up and play music every day, then I had made it. So why should I compare myself to this crazy thing that all the people I look up to haven't done? Before I did anything, whether it was this, whether it was meeting new people, the smallest social things, I could not connect or enjoy the moment because there was this big shield in front of me that was saying you're ugly, you're gross. But I just couldn't put myself out there because the way I felt about myself was, this is going to be what people see. Doesn't matter what you do, this is offensive. Looking back, I just have no idea how I even did all that. I'm speaking from a way more open point than I ever before.
Joining the podcast today is an incredible woman who just so happened to join us at our live show in Melbourne last year. She has over 10.5 billion streams worldwide. Her songs have been number one in 31 countries. She was the first female artist to reach 3 billion streams on Spotify and the second artist to do so. We absolutely fell in love with her at the live show, and I think we saw a completely different side because she doesn't interview. She hasn't done another podcast before, and we feel really honoured to be able to speak to her today. Welcome to the podcast, the one and only Tones and I. This is where if we had sound effects but we don't afford it, we'd put sound effects.
Like confetti streamers. Welcome.
You can use that.
Tones, after the live show, Britt and I left that show and we were like, far out. We so deeply hope that you come on the podcast and we get to have an extended version of the chat that we had that night because you were so vulnerable. And when Britt says saw a different side of you, I think sometimes when you look at someone who is so successful, so incredibly unique and has been such a powerful force in the music industry, you just think that person has it all. And then maybe it was an easy route to get to where they are at. And your story is something that I think is fascinating. But before we get into it, there was a story you shared at the live show. Which hopefully you're okay with sharing again. It is your accidentally unfiltered story.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, I was trying to see if there was another one, but this truly is definitely one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. And I think you need to really put yourself in my position here to really feel that embarrassment. But I went to my friend's wedding, two of my best friends. One of them is called Volley, and he's one of my choir members, and his wife, Beck. Volley is a Fijian man, but he is albino, and I think that's important to mention. And when I got to the wedding, I hadn't met his family yet, and I was really excited to meet them, obviously being such a big part of my life for the last few years and with COVID. So it was really nice to kind of get to know them. And I saw his mum at the wedding, hugging all the boys. So I was like, right, okay, I'm going to go up to her at the wedding. I'm going to introduce myself. I want to get to know his family. So I'm at the wedding. I'm having a good night. It's 9:30. So, all the speeches are done. And I go up to his mum. And we're chatting and, I was just saying how proud I am of Volley and how much of an impact he's had on my life. And she's into it, but she's kind of also introducing me oh, there's my other kids or whatever. She's like, oh, that's my son. I'm like, oh, wow.
Oh, you've got more.
But what about Volley?
Yeah, and I just kind of kept going back to Volley. Anyway, I was like, okay, that was a nice chat. She was nice. And then the next day, Volley comes up to me and he's like, hey, at the recover party, I want you to, meet my mum and dad. And I was like, okay, well, I did briefly meet your mum last night, but I didn't meet your dad. So yeah, okay. So we're walking over. I see Volley's mum. We keep walking over and then we keep walking past Volley's mum. And I was like, oh no. So this is where, it's embarrassing and it's also a little bit ignorant on my behalf as well. That was Volley's sister who's also albino, but Volley's mum and dad aren't.
Oh, so you just made it a bit of a
Just made the
stretch
assumption.
assumption.
And I think because all the boys were hugging her in a line to hug her, I just immediately told myself that's definitely Volley's mum, because it was before the ceremony. They're all lining up to hug. I was like, that's Volley's mum.
I'm going to jump in the line.
So I walked past what was Volley's sister now. I'd realised, and that's why she was trying to tell me the night before, these are my kids.
Who are a lot younger probably than Volley.
But Volley is 42 and these kids were 6. So Volley could have definitely been their father, in some cases grandfather. But I didn't click, and I think she was just being so polite. She didn't want to tell me. But what happened was, I moved past the table with Volley's siblings on it. I got to Volley's mum. I was like, oh no. Then Volley goes, hey, Tones, I want you to meet my mum and dad. And they were so warm. They were so amazing. And as soon as I leant in to hug them, Volley's table full of siblings just started losing it with laughter, like they'd already known. And I was so embarrassed, and I realized in that moment the only thing to do was to just come clean and not try and play it off like, because Volley was like, I think Volley knew. He wasn't like, oh, so you guys spoke yesterday. I think he knew the situation. Yeah.
There's nowhere to hide.
Yeah. So now we laugh about it, and but no, his family are amazing, but it was definitely so embarrassing for me, because I just thought, and I don't know when I decided that was definitely Volley's mum, and also his sister doesn't look that old, and nothing
Also
to do with
so
that.
offensive, isn't it? It's like if somebody came up to me and my brother and was like, thought I was my brother's mum, I'd be like, I'm devoed, like I'm going to get Botox, I'm going to peel this off.
Nah, to be fair though, I find it very difficult to gauge age. So for me, I'd be like, could be a mum, could be a sister. Who knows?
Well, Tones, I just mentioned it before. You don't really interview. When we were going to have you at our live show, we were like, let's just do a deep dive, get some background, like find out a little bit about you. It was quite hard because you don't really speak to many outlets. You don't do many media interviews. You definitely don't do podcasts. Can you tell us why that is?
Well, honestly, I just think that when everything happened at the start of my career, people were just making so much out of nothing. And mentioning my name was just something that everyone did at a certain point in time. And I just hated that feeling. It made me feel so disgusting and so like I didn't like it. I wanted to kind of stay underground. And I felt like dirty when people made shit up about me, and I felt gross, like they could say anything, and they did. There's so much stuff, if you really wanted to go look down, that's just not true. So I just thought, why would I give an inch when you're already taking a mile and saying whatever you want? And it just really like made me think, why would I give anything to the public when I am literally an Australian singer-songwriter that started on the street, that went out there and did my thing when no one knew me, and I came up through other people's support of me. In my honest sense, no one fucking looked after me. People put me on this pedestal. I was so out of my comfort zone. I looked like I just crawled out of the gutter. I didn't have an aesthetic or a style. I was a chubby little girl from the street. You just put me up, and then you just smashed me so far down. Like, I didn't have a say in anything. I have contributed nothing to anything that's ever been in the media about me. My thought was, why would I give you guys any more to work on? I want you to shut the fuck up about me. And I think I've grown a lot more as a human being in terms of my strength and knowing who I am. And I needed that time to grow, and no one gave me that grace. I had to give it to myself. And now I'm at a point where, like, I'm not going to go and do other podcasts, no, but like I get to
Don't hit
one.
me up. No, but it's so powerful hearing you say that, because you spoke about this to us at the live show backstage, and you said, you got to a point where you were like, it didn't matter what I felt like I said about myself because people were going to write things anyway. So then I stopped speaking and they could make up their own mind. Yeah. Was there ever a point where you thought like, but no, I want to get my truth out there. I want people to know who I am. Or was it just truly the reverse? Because I think people don't understand the impact that Australian media has, what those headline and articles can have on people who are actually at the bottom of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so many good people out there, and I really truly know this now. I am the only Leica version in the history of Triple J Leica versions that have had to have the comments turned off.
Wow.
And I have had radio presenters come up to me and apologise on behalf of all men, which I see this stuff all the time. Sometimes I just want to tell myself I cop it as much as anyone else. and I'm not the new Nickelback. But for a while there, like, it was hard.
Do you think it's because you don't subscribe to that traditional ideology that people have of what a pop star is supposed to look like or is supposed to behave like?
I think, if you change, you're in trouble. But if you don't change, you're in trouble. And with me specifically, like, people were so offended by how I looked, like, just so offended that I started preempting what people would think before anything was even out. And I judged myself as harsh as I could so that I was really prepared for all that criticism. And then it wasn't a tactic anymore. I just started hating myself so badly that anything I did, I just couldn't see a positive reaction to anything. I didn't want to do social media, but I don't talk like this because, especially now, I see it so much now. I definitely have noticed a lot more positivity in my life.
Yeah.
This is definitely not, like, I would say current moment stuff. I'm definitely feeling a lot more love, and I feel a bit more in my shoes. I think my shoes were really big and I was just trying to kind of keep up with everything, but also I had to look great at the same time or something.
It's funny because you say, you felt like there was no good coming out of it or no support. And I think what I'm about to say goes hand in hand, because the support was there in terms of the love for the song. It was reaching astronomical heights. Like, as we just mentioned, you've 3 billion streams on Spotify. And I think that is the reason then you also go and get personal hate, is because we've seen it happen a million times. We love the underdog until they become the dog. We love the underdog when you've come from the streets busking and you were different, and then all of a sudden you got uber successful and you challenged the norm of what uber successful should look like. Your style and who you are, we didn't really see that. The hats and the track pants and the basketball and the shoes, no one had seen that before. And then all of a sudden, and we're getting into this too early, I think, in the episode, but here we go. It leans into tall poppy syndrome. We don't want that person to be successful anymore, because
only to a certain point. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I see it even with other artists now as well. But I mean, I think also, and this doesn't come from I want to stand my ground. I wish it came from a more empowering place. But I think that there's a really good argument to say that I didn't change. I was, for a very long time, always that chubby, hat-wearing, oversized tee girl, and it wasn't because I was like, I'm not changing, because that's where I felt comfortable. I felt comfortable in those baggy clothes. I wasn't body confident, and I wasn't okay to change, and truth be told, if I was, I might have, but it was a true, I can't wear that. No, I don't feel comfortable in that. Reason why I didn't. So, there is a case to be made that, the person that was on the street might have even dressed a bit nicer than the person that was on the stage the following year. But as I said before, like, there's no winning at this game. You've just got to figure out whether you have the guts for it, and then you got to take it and you got to move on and roll with it. And I mean, if I hadn't, come out of that feeling more confident in myself, then I probably would have been out of this whole industry altogether.
Tones, you just mentioned, and I can see it in your social media as well, like your confidence in the way you post, in your, like, not just the way you post, but how that translates from your stage presence.
The happiness that is beaming out of you.
It feels like, and I know you speak about this retrospectively, this experience that you had when you were absolutely catapulted into the stardom that you were. But what changed? Where did the confidence then come from? Where did the sense of self come from? And why is it now that you're at a point where you're like, this is who I am, and you're fucking uber successful, but you have the confidence to be the version of you?
It's a me thing, of course. Like, it stems from me, but I've spent the first 2 years of my life buying 10 cars for different friends that took them and left me, and paying other people's credit cards off, and buying holidays. And that's really what I did you
gave back to all the people in your life.
And sometimes, and this is hard to say because I would never take it back, but it was a learning moment, because there are some things that you just don't do for people, and then they come back for more, and then you do it again, and you don't want to let them down. And I think I've really decided, like 2.5, 3 years ago, to start cutting people out of my life that only ask, and all I ever want in return is love. And all I've ever wanted in return is love. And I will give someone the whole world. And I feel like I'll give them everything that they ask for. But then I'm barely getting love back. So I try and give more. And I didn't realize that because, you know, I just want genuine love and connections with people. And I just don't think I really had that. And so when I had something to give, I gave it to whoever wanted it that was giving me any kind of love. I don't know if it's because I'm a Taurus. I don't know if I into all that, but apparently I'm a giver.
Yeah, I don't think that it was wrong being so generous. There's nothing wrong with that if it's for the right people, but it sounds like you just got taken advantage of.
That's what was keeping me down. And then I found good people that don't want anything from me except for the relationship that we share. And I didn't think I would find those people as I got more and more known. I thought it would be way harder to find people that I could have in my life that I could give and take with and share food and cook for and have around for dinner and watch the footy and go to basketball games and go for runs or walks and do those things together. And that's all I really wanted. Like I wanted to recreate a family for myself, and I've really found that in the last few years, and I'm very stable in my happiness because of those people.
Tones, I'd love to take this back a little bit to get a bit of an understanding of like who you were before you became the famous version of you that we all know. But like, what was life like for you growing up? And when you say you wanted to rebuild a family, like what was your upbringing like, and what were those relationships around you like at the time? You're like, I don't want to talk about it.
We can bypass.
We can bypass. But what it was like, I mean, you're from Mount Martha. What were you like before you were famous?
Since a really young age, I want to say 6, I gave everything I had to basketball. So I'm just going to say I did that because I needed something. And then by the time I was 13, I played for 6 teams. I coached 2 teams. I was a ref as a job, and I would wake up at 4 and train until school, go to school, train before school. I would practice at lunchtime in the gym, and then I'd go straight from school and catch the public bus to coaching, and I'd coach for 2 hours, referee for 2, and then I'd run to the other stadium where I'd train until 9:30 p.m. And that's what I did every day. And then I played on Saturdays and Sundays. That was the way of me bringing myself up. And I ended up going to a basketball school called Revel Sports Academy in year 11. And then I played representative for the Vic Youth Championship side when I was 17 or 18, Frankston Blues. And then when I decided I wanted to do music full time, I took all of that energy and all that power and all that repetition, and I put it into music. And I will just say that I pretty much raised myself through that. And that's what I decided to do because it was the only thing that made me happy. So I just was monotonously playing basketball every day.
Was the dream to be a professional basketballer?
I don't really think that. I don't think I ever thought that far ahead. I think I was just in survival mode for all that time, and it's crazy to think about that. I didn't really have like friends. I don't think. I had friends, I guess, but I don't know, like here or there when I was in primary school, whatever, that's whatever.
Yeah.
And in high school, you know, I never really quite belonged. And I know this is quite a normal thing, and I think that's why it's good to share, because I think a lot of people feel like this, but I was I was on the edge of the group, and you know, sometimes being the least popular one in the popular group is the worst place to be. And then I kind of wanted that, but I wanted to play basketball, but then I kind of had that, and then I just didn't give it enough energy, and I just focused on basketball. And then one of my basketball teams, like, they just didn't, you know, I'd get there before training and just run laps for like an hour and a half before everyone got there.
Just to be there.
Just to be there and fill time. But I was there was one team where I really fit in the end, but I even spent my whole basketball life just trying to fit in. Yeah. I don't really remember truly belonging like I do now, like with my choir or with my friends. And I don't think I've ever felt this secure in a group of people that where I feel comfortable. I don't walk in the room and get nervous or who's saying what. Oh God, I really hope school isn't like this still, because that would just be a nightmare for kids with TikTok and social media too. Imagine if high school is still this bad.
You know, Tones, like even understanding that about your childhood and even the small snippet that you've given us. We're no psychologists, none of us are here, but like it makes you go, of course there's going to be a period in your life where you're feeling like you're buying people's affection or like you're doing what you can to make people stay. Like that must have been and especially when your life has literally flipped on its head so instantly, it must have been a really fucking challenging time for you to navigate and to figure out who was there for the right reasons.
Yeah, I think when I went to Byron Bay, something had to give. I don't know why I thought playing the same pub every Tuesday night was going to automatically catapult me into anything. And with basketball, I knew how to have that repetition. I knew how to stay focused, and I knew how to work hard for something. But I didn't really want that successfully. I just used that as a blocker, and I loved it. It gave me this feeling that being on stage will never give me. But with music, I really wanted it, and I could almost see it. And I think it was because I really didn't I really just kind of sat in my space for my life before then, and I was happy to do that. I didn't really give too much to school. I didn't really care about that, but I always knew, and it was never because I wanted to go out partying and stuff, but of course that was a part of my life too. But it was because I knew when I knew what I wanted to do, I knew how to do it. I knew how to be focused, and I knew how to, just get what you want. And, I think that the hardest part of my life was convincing myself to take the chances and the leaps and do those things. Whereas I think that a lot of people right now, no matter what you tell yourself, no matter what you say to yourself, your biggest thing is that you won't start something or you won't do what you say you're going to do.
The failure's scary.
Failure.
But also people talk about the things that they want to do for so long without doing the things that you need to do to actually keep that ball in motion.
Yeah.
Like we talk about where we want to be, but we don't actually talk about what it is that we're doing and the steps to get us there.
Well, so how did you get to, let's go to Byron Bay, because that's where your second wind at life, I guess, started. How did you end up in Byron Bay?
Well, I was working at Jetty Surf in Burke Street.
So good, so great.
Everyone knows it.
So Aussie though. It's fucking great.
And it was on Burke Street. So Burke Street notoriously is known for like buskers. And I used to just stand at the front of the store and just watch the street performers. And my manager didn't really care. She was kind of cool with it. She actually was so supportive of me wanting to be a musician. And I was kind of playing at pubs here and there on the keyboard, looping. And the Pierce brothers would play, and it was awesome. It was the best thing ever. I finally figured it out. This is what I wanted to do. I figured it out what I wanted to do. I quit basketball. I wanted to be a busker. That's all I wanted. I didn't want to do anything else. I just knew that if my job was to get up and play music every day, then I had made it, and that's all I ever wanted. And so I worked hard. It took me like 2 years. There was like interviews and auditions, but I got a Burke Street busking permit, and I was so excited. It was like the biggest thing ever. And then I did it for like 4 times, and it was just me with probably the most equipment, and I had to park like a K away. It was $70 a day parking, so if I didn't make $70, I'd lost money.
Yeah.
And I'd had to get random strangers to mind my stuff while I did another run to the car with the biggest trolley from Bunnings. And then I was like, this is so much more effort than what I'm earning. I even did Boxing Day, which was so busy, but because everyone was trying to shop, no one cares.
They just walk past you.
Yeah. So then someone said, come to Byron Bay. You can pull up anywhere. Just open your van door, get a van, open your van door and busk. So it took me like another whole year to get up that courage. My friends made memes of an old woman in a van, and it said, when Tones finally decides to go to Byron Bay. And then I just did it, but I took annual leave first because I was like, I don't know. So I took annual leave. I drove up to Byron Bay, and it took me I was there for 10 days. And on like the 9th day, I finally got the courage to busk. I got my stuff down to the street. I busked. I made $127 in 3 hours. And I thought, well, I'm going to live in my van. That's enough. And I got a card in my box, and it was from a guy called Jackson. And he said to me, and I put this card in my phone. I didn't call it or nothing. I went back to work. I was putting a decal up on the window at work, said like sale or something, whatever. And I went on lunch break, and I was back at work for like 3 weeks. I was like, this is shit. Like,
what am I doing?
So I pull this card out on my lunch break. I pull this card out. What have I got to lose? I call this number on the card, and I was like, hey, put your card in my box in Byron Bay. And he's like, this guy, he's like, I'm a lawyer for artists. but I want to be a manager and I want to manage you. And I told him I'm back in Melbourne now. He's like, if you commit to coming back up and staying here full time, you can use my place to write music. I've got a studio.
Wow.
And we'll be a safety net.
It's amazing. He was just standing there watching you on the street and thought, this girl's got it.
There are so many parts of this that I love, but he's also shooting his shot. He's trying to transition into a whole new industry, and don't take this the wrong way, but he's starting from the bottom. He's going to buskers who obviously aren't represented yet, who he can
Totally
see something in and say, hey, I can work with that. I love that he shot his shot. You've shot your shot by saying, yeah, fuck, I'll go.
But there are some amazing, like, you know, rags to riches type stories about buskers who had discovered busking, who end up being the biggest sensations. Like, especially in Byron Bay, where there's so many people who are creatively competitive and that they're doing it. But you have the best story. And I know it's the song that you fucking hate talking about. But unfortunately,
monkey dance. We'll call it
unfortunately,
monkey
we
dance
can't get away around it. But Dance Monkey, that is, I mean, it sounded so different. It was so catchy. It was the song that catapulted you. But you have a really interesting story about how that song originally, in a very grassroots way, grew legs when you were playing at the local Byron Bay Hotel. The Byron Bay Hotel, the one near the train station.
No, it was the hostel I lived in.
Yeah, okay.
The Arts Factory. So the Arts Factory every Tuesday night has a talent show. And whether you're staying there or not, you're welcome to go. You just walk in and you sit down and people just get up. You can play music whether you're staying at the hostel or not. It's quite big. It was one of the biggest things I'd ever seen, you know, being a pub singer. Anyway, I used to play there every week and I did this cover of Forever Young, which I actually still do on tour today. And everyone used to always get up dancing. I'd like loop the beats in and put bongos over it. And everyone used to get up and dance. And I was like, I want to write a song that's my own that these guys can dance to. That was my goal that week. So I went away that week and wrote some music. And I wrote this song, and it is about the things that people say to me on the street. I see the way you shine. They take my hand, they look at me, and they go, you stopped me dead while I was walking by. Like, it's literally just things people say to me in a song. It's not that, like, deep. And then...
But also Dance Monkey around, you're busking for people.
Yeah.
You're a performer for people.
And it was originally, when I wrote it, it was sing for me. But I was like, dance is more universal. So I named it that. Anyway, for the first time I played this song, I told my friends at the hostel, like, I just wrote this song. I was reading my lyrics off my phone and I'd set the loops up. And everyone, they were eating, it was early, and everyone, even on the balcony, were like all getting up and started dancing. I was like, oh my God. So at the end of the talent show, they asked me to play it again. And then once again, everyone got up and I was like, this is crazy. I played it on the street, where all of a sudden all these people like started messaging me, asking where they can hear it. I didn't want to do it. I wasn't releasing music. I just wanted to be a busker. I was living my dream now. I'd done it. I ticked everything I wanted to do. I didn't want to.
Which is so funny now.
I know.
It's amazing.
And then I would never planned on releasing it. And then this song got so big on its own that everyone now officially would come to the talent show every single Tuesday night, packed out, couldn't fit anyone else, because I would sing this song once at the end of the night. I would always go last and I'd sing this song once and everyone would just wait for this song. And the hostel even started charging $5 on the door and saved enough money to buy a whole new PA system in like a week. And then I ended up singing this song at the hostel. It got so big that I was like 8 months after I started playing on the street, I recorded it. And then pretty much when I released it, we saw the same thing happen, but in a way bigger scale, that what had already been happening for 8 months on the street, and the people that were a part of that, like, that's, you know, no matter what I say, I like the song, I love the song. I love it. I love it so much. I'm so proud of it. But the song has started to define me. And that is where I draw the line, and that's where I start backing away from only talking about it. But I don't want to ever take away from past tones who actually had the balls to drag that speaker and shit out onto the street every single night. Other buskers making up group chats about me saying, let's run her out of town, the police shutting me down. Like, it was just all these long-haired guys with guitars and pitchforks coming for me. And I still did it every night for myself, just like I did when I was young, just like I did when I used to get up early and leave the house and just get away and play basketball and build my own shit up. From when I was 13, I did it all again. And now, looking back, I just have no idea how I even did all that, because the Tones I am now is looking at whole new
Tones, I'm actually
places.
crying. I'm
You're
such a
fucking
loser.
amazing.
I'm like, what? You need to motivational speak. I'm like, why am I crying listening to that? It's actually just,
Yeah.
it's so, because there's so much, you can tell when you speak that there's so much truth to it and honesty, and there's so much warmth in the fact that you're like, you own the fact that your life wasn't set up for success, but you made it anyway, which is huge.
Yeah, and I think after all of that, maybe putting on foundation for some old guy on Instagram was the last of my worries. You know what I mean? There was maybe a bigger picture there, Stephen. But, you know, here's an exclusive. I've actually just lost 30 kilos, so I'm feeling the best I've ever felt. But I did it on my own time.
Yeah.
You know? I started last year. Actually, my turning point was your show. I was talking to Mitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, different ways.
I remember the conversation you guys were having
Yeah.
in the little green room out the back.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with this, but I swear on my life, I'm not on Ozempic because that is definitely going to be in the media soon.
But that's the thing too, like Mitch, our co-host who we all love, a good friend of yours too, he did go on his own health journey and lost so much weight, and the difference in him was astronomical.
Yeah.
Like the confidence and the happiness he felt. And I know that's like what helped you kickstart your health journey as well. And you can see it in you as well. Like I'm not talking about the weight loss. I'm talking about the difference in who you are, like who radiates out.
Yeah.
How has it made you feel different?
I can only explain it like this, and this is so truthful to how I feel that I reckon other people might feel similar. Before I did anything, whether it was this, whether it was meeting new people, whether I was going out for dinner and some people there I didn't know, or the smallest social things, a photo in Woolworths with a fan. I could not connect or enjoy the moment because there was this big like shield in front of me that was saying like, you're ugly, you're gross. This is going to be what people see. Doesn't matter what you do, this is offensive. And I know that's sad to say now because I'm not in that headspace, but that was who I was for a long time. I didn't want to be super excited to meet people and give my full self because I thought that doesn't matter. People have already shown you that the way you look is so much more important than the way you could act. So I was so reserved. I didn't want to be reserved. I'm not a reserved person. But I just like really couldn't put myself out there because the way I felt about myself was so harsh because it was obviously like dramatized by what people had said about me in that moment in my life where I was at my most vulnerable, that I didn't want to do anything or talk. I definitely wouldn't have a camera in front of me right now. I wouldn't go on any shows or do anything anyone wanted. I said no to any camera stuff, and I'd just be doing radio liners in my room with a voice memo. And I didn't want to post anything, but I had to, and it was the worst. And I had to do a photo shoot for the first time, and that was horrible. But it's all a part of, if you want people to listen to music, you've got to be the whole package. I just wanted to be the music.
But now look at you. You're on stage supporting Pink as well.
In sequins, actually.
Like literally.
Yes, and you're dancing like
Being
an
loud.
animal out there.
I'm in my sequin era, I think.
Yeah, I fucking love this. But also it comes down to like, and this is something Taylor Swift has talked about loads, but like reinventing yourself as a female performer. It's almost like we don't have the allowance to just be the same version. You don't have the allowance to be the same version of yourself throughout your entire career. There's variations of what Tones and I will be. Where do you think this fits into your journey in being musical, and like what's coming next for you in terms of like where you want your music to be?
Well, I mean, right now I am in a I'm trying to, you know, be as confident as I can. I wore, just such a small thing for anyone listening, but I wore shorts on stage for the first time. I don't think anyone had ever seen my knees before the last 4 weeks, you know?
I don't think that's a small thing though. I think there's a lot of people listening right now that feel exactly what you're saying.
To have a female pop artist say that she showed her knees for the first time.
That's the headline.
That, like, to me, and it was such a big deal, and I stood in the mirror for so long backstage, and I thought, the way that I'm moving, the way I'm just enjoying myself, who gives a fuck about your knees? Like, what is even wrong? Like, I've got normal knees.
You literally have great knees.
Don't zoom in.
Tones, you got beautiful knees.
They are knees.
I can't
Get
wait
a close up of that.
I can't wait to get this knee exclusive out there for everybody who hasn't seen them before.
I know. So I think I'm taking it day by day. I am speaking even now. Obviously, I'm still reserved, but I'm speaking from a way more open point than I ever have, ever before. I don't want to say too much. I'll say 2 sentences at a time usually, but I think that show we did together was just so nice to see, so warm that it made me feel comfortable. But right now, I'm not thinking too much ahead, and that cautious tones and that tones from before, like she's still there because she's keeping us all wary and making
sure. She keeps you safe.
Yeah.
She's kept you safe for this amount of time.
Yeah.
But also something, and which makes me so excited for this new version of you in your confidence era, in your sequin era, is how much people love you more when they see you authentically, when they can see behind the curtain and they understand your story. Because with that, and I know for you, there's always been this fear around, well, how's the media going to turn the truth then? If they know the truth, well, what the fuck are they going to write about then? But what actually happens is you have this army of people who see you, who recognize you, who identify you because they've lived a similar thing, they've experienced a similar feeling. I actually have goosebumps, where they have felt the way that you feel, and you are humanized at a whole other level other than just being an incredible artist. You become an incredible human, and that's really, really cool as well.
I think I'm on a journey. I want to see myself as someone that I would be proud to call a friend, and that is what I'm working towards. And I think that I have to work on myself personally, and I think that will resonate publicly, but I have no plans and never have had any plans to work on my public image because I can't fake anything. So, if I'm upset, I won't post. I don't announce I'm not going to post. I'm off social media. I don't do that.
So contrived.
And I don't indulge in stories because there's no point me villainizing anyone in my past. It does nothing for me.
Yeah.
It does nothing but bring up stuff. If there was someone right in front of me right now that it would help, and it wasn't going to go public, I would share that story. But for me to talk about any of those things, it's bringing it up for me, for people to consume. And at this point in my life right now, I'm in a positive place, but I don't think my fans or the people that like Dance Monkey have shown themselves prominent enough as my core people like you guys have with your podcast for me to feel comfortable enough to indulge in my past yet.
Yeah.
But I'm always open to it. But if it's just for the point of entertainment, I would never go back there.
Yeah.
It's just a journey I'm on,
You should be so proud of yourself.
Thank you.
Deeply proud of yourself. Talking about your music and, I know obviously Dance Monkey, and I love that you say it's something that you're proud of, but also something that you can say, well, the thing that you hate about it is how it started to define what you created and define you as a person. How did you manage to navigate away from that? And where are you at now in terms of the music that you're creating and what you're putting out in the world?
Well, I went from like a song that went pretty global in terms of it just was everywhere.
Everywhere.
So then I had to figure out, well, they're not my fans. They like the song, and there's going to come a point where so I start like this is the global song. And then slowly over time, you find your pocket of fans that listen to your album and your next stuff and go look at your other songs. And that is dramatically smaller. And then you work with them. You appreciate them. You communicate with them. You write for them. And you always write for yourself, I truly believe. But don't ever try and recreate the same hit just to get streams. I just feel like that style of song was born with me and died with me. And like if someone tried to recreate that or myself, people are like, oh God, like it's just the same. We're over it. I just feel like I had to come to a point where I found that this how many people listen to that one song, this how many people listen to my music. And they're the people that will go to shows or like will, want to know what you're doing. And, you post publicly for these people. And that was the moment where I kind of realized. And I think then that's when you find those fans and whatever I release, they consume. And if they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. And that's just all a part of it. But the way I think of Dance Monkey is if I ever tried to live up to that standard with everything I did, I need to realize that Beyonce hasn't done that. Ariana Grande hasn't done that. Nicki Minaj and Taylor Swift, they've never done what that song has done. And I'm not going to say what I've done. And they're all very successful women in music. And they're not trying to beat this because that wasn't their first song. So why should I compare myself to this crazy thing that all the people I look up to haven't done, when that is fine enough? I'm not even trying to be Beyonce. Like, I'd be happy to play the Forum once a year. You know what I mean? Truthfully, I really would. This Pink tour has been amazing, but take me to the Forum. You know, I'm okay with that.
It's crazy when you put it,
But take me back to Byron Pub.
but it's crazy when you put it into perspective of the scale of which you have reached, because always you're only ever going to be chasing something then that would leave you disappointed. But the fact that you are very consciously aware of like where you're at and what you want to achieve, it's really, really amazing.
Something that we talk about a lot here and that we both feel really passionate about, and I think it's always great to highlight it with someone that's been through it, is back to what we said at the beginning of the episode, and that's the online trolling and the harassment. And I know you have been on that side of it quite heavily. And at the live show, you spoke about a really big event when you were flying to America, and I think it was Nicki Minaj. What happened in that time? And I think it's important to talk about the effect it had on you, because people underestimate the power of words and online trolling.
Yeah, so this is like probably the worst trolling I've ever had. I was on my way to do my first American tour. It was all sold out. I was so excited. I was 4 hours out of LAX and I got Wi-Fi on the plane, and my phone was like ding, ding, ding. And essentially what has happened is Nicki Minaj has gone on her podcast, has not said a thing about me. Nothing about me. Nicki has said, I'm about to release a new song. Do whatever you can to get it to number one. That was it. Now, at the same time of this, my song had just broken the record for the most days at number one globally. So 114 days or something. And so no one in that whole 6 months, not one song went to number one globally while my song sat there.
Wow.
So obviously I was the target of the barbs, which truthfully, I kind of was a barb at the time. And I still love Nicki Minaj. And so they came to me, and what they did is they came for me by editing all my photos, whether it was the cap I was wearing or a plaque, and they put like racist signs or swastikas everywhere over my stuff, and then reposted it on Twitter, which I don't run my Twitter, so I couldn't even see this, but then someone screenshot it and put it and tagged me on Instagram all over my stuff, because they thought, well, let's make her look like the bad guy instead of us just trying to bring her down, which at least I like that about Aussies. They just are dicks. They'll say it from their chest. Like, they'll say the mean thing, but it's so much more manipulative overseas. Like, they make you look bad. And then obviously I was so distraught. I called my label. I said, I have to say something. And then they said, no, if you bring it up, it's going to get more attention. But then there was like a retweet on Nicki Minaj's Twitter that said, this is not what I meant. Like, as if you're trying to bring a female down like this. Like, so she kind of called it out. And then she said, or someone said, you forgot to edit her blue tick in. So the person that had edited these forgot to edit my blue tick back in. So it looked like it
was a Photoshop.
Yeah. So that was probably the worst thing. And then I met Macklemore on that tour, and I was sitting with him. This is the first day I met him. And he's like, I want to do a song with you in the studio. And I sat with him and I was like so embarrassed. And I was like, I really, like, this is the dream come true. He's my favorite artist, always has been. Said, I would love to do this, but I need to let you know first what people are saying about me online in case it sways you. So I show it to Ben and his manager, and they just kind of start laughing to each other. And I was like, what? And they're like, they do it to everyone. They even do it to Lizzo. They do it to Doja Cat. They're like, if you're coming up in the music industry, this is their go-to. They will villainize you. They do it to a lot of people. But obviously, as an Australian artist, like, I just don't think we're that ruthless. I haven't seen that, no. So I was really embarrassed, and like I really needed to let all my friends know that if they'd come across anything, but it died quickly, thank goodness. But there's maybe like a few things that I just feel like places you would just never go, but obviously people don't care. And I get so disgusted when I see, young girls online just copping heat for anything. It's just kind of gross. But I think I came in just before TikTok took off.
It's also frustrating when you said you called your managers and your agency and like, I'm going to say something, and they say don't, because
you just sit there
it gives it more oxygen. But it's so hard to have your character assassinated and you're told to sit back and just let it happen, even though every part of you wants to say, but I know I'm not that person.
Yeah.
It's a really hard place to sit.
Like, even if you do say I'm not that person, there's no winning.
Well, we've had conversations similar on the pod before, but with Mia Friedman, she's always kind of given the advice to us as a bit of a mentor of like,
she heads Mamma Mia.
Yeah, she's the head of Mamma Mia, which you've probably heard of. She's like, don't put gas on the fire. Like, if other people are saying things about you, the worst thing you can do is weigh in because it just puts a spotlight on it. Which is great advice, but when you're in it, you're just like, fuck, I want people to know that I'm not the person that they're saying I am.
I know.
But then it's like, even if you do that, you still are met with the vitriol of people who don't care.
Yeah.
It's a place where you can't win.
It never made it to Australia, which I'm thankful for. Like, my home is still my home and I don't feel as toxic here, but it tainted the US for me, tainted it. And that USD conversion rate, you got to go, you know what I mean? Like,
you got to earn the bank.
Tones, tell us more about what you've been doing with Pink, because like it's from looking in across social media. Our producer Keisha got to go and see you live. Like, what has this experience been like, and what did it mean for you to be able to headline for Pink? And also, like, how long was it in the bag for? Like, what's it like?
Well, I didn't find out I was definitely doing it a few years ago, but I was alluded to the fact that I was a really, really, really like strong contender a few years ago. So I haven't been touring, and the tour got postponed. No one knows this because it wasn't public yet, but when I thought it was going to happen, it got postponed, I don't think it got postponed as much as they just hadn't decided on a date yet. So like, I held out doing anything myself. Actually, I also got asked to go on the Robbie Williams tour, but I couldn't do both. So I was holding out
Pink,
for Pink,
baby.
And it wasn't confirmed, but Robbie had an official offer. But then I was like, no, but Pink's fans would like get my music more. And Robbie fans might be like, why is she here? So
That's a tough place to be, man, between Pink and Robbie.
I know.
Good place.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, but we didn't get an official offer from Pink. So I was like, no, I'm just going to rely and hope for this and hope for this. And I just kept saying no. And then the offer came through. And you know what I fucking love about the whole thing about working with Pink? I run so deep with my tour party. They are not just my choir. I wish there was a better word, but my choir and my band and us, like, we are so close. It is not the same without us all together. And to have the full acceptance of that and the full love, and yep, you can bring them. They even approved for more if we wanted. And like the confidence like that they have in their own show, that they're like, yep, bring your madhouse, bring your choir, bring, what do you want? Obviously there are a few cuts here and there, but like there's nothing more confident and badass about someone that knows their own worth so much that they are telling the support act to go as big as you want. They literally say go as big as you want.
Yeah.
And I literally I think I knew that these were Pink shows, but this was my chance to not be just a song on the radio for a lot of people that would have known nothing more about me, and to embrace every moment. And I truly feel like with 4 shows to go, I really feel like I have embraced every single moment on this tour, and I've taken it all in. Unlike other tours, which people might be surprised about, I'm actually completely sober, which I'm not a sober princess. Like I wasn't before, and I would always get sick on tour. I'd always get run down. And I'm really looking after myself now, and I've enjoyed every moment. It's a bit euphoric to be able to, see these faces of the people that start like this and like end literally jumping up and down. And that's the best part. And today I actually announced that I am finally, after 3 years, doing my own Australian tour, which will only be my 3rd ever Australian tour. So,
there's those terrible sound effects going pew, 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 pew.
All the dogs are like running around.
We are so excited for you. What it was that prevented you from doing it? When you say it's only your 3rd, what stopped you from doing it sooner?
well, obviously I thought I had this opportunity as well. And I think to really lock that opportunity down, like they want to know that, you haven't toured for a bit. If you've just done a tour and everyone's bought tickets to see that, then you really won't add to ticket value. So they always like to make sure a support act helps. Like for my headlining tour, I will bring on a support act that will help a bit with tickets if needed. And if we do sell out without, awesome as well. It's just how it goes.
Do you have ideas of who you'd have?
Oh, I do have an idea, and the person that I've picked is perfect, and we're very close backstage. Everyone's allowed in my dressing room, support act or not. Like, there's no bad time to come and see me and the choir, and we want it to be a big, loving family. So we've picked a support act that would fall into that and enjoy it and embrace it.
Tones, what made you want to stop drinking? Like, what was it that was the catalyst that made you want to do this experience with Pink but be sober?
So Macklemore is a sober boy. He has struggled with drug addiction quite publicly his whole life, and he's been sober for a long time, and he's killing it. I went on tour with Macklemore last year. I was supporting him, but I also get on stage with him as well. So I did my show, then his show. I got really drunk like I always have, maybe a bit too drunk. My show was great, and then I fucked up. Sorry, can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah, go for it.
We swear like troopers.
And I fucked up all his songs. So he was bringing me on tour, and that was because of drinking. Anyway, I swore from that night on, I wouldn't drink for the rest of his tour, right?
To him, did you make that commitment? Like, did you guys have a conversation about it?
He didn't know I was drunk, but I've seen, like, they take it really seriously on tour. Like, you can have a drink, like, they're not, but like, they're always like, you don't need it to perform. Like, so like, lucky they didn't know, but I could tell Ben now, and he'd be like, okay. I was like, okay, I got away with that one scot-free. He just gave me a look. He looked back at me, he's like, and then I like went straight on my tour bus and went back. I didn't even see him after the show. And then before the next show, he just said to everyone in the huddle, no fuck up, Snipe. We all knew it was because of me. Everyone's like, hey. So I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. It's like, it's getting in the way of things.
Performing.
So I did the whole tour, rest of the tour sober last year with him. It was amazing. And then when I was with you guys last, I said, like, I want to lose weight. I want to be happy. And this was a huge part of it for me. So I just literally from that day on, I was like, I am just going to prioritize whatever it is I need to do. The next decision that I make has to prioritize my happiness and my health. And I've just been doing that. And now it's like I'm 30 kilos lighter. My mood swings are way less. I have so much happiness, like that's genuine. These pants never used to fit me, but that's okay because that's what happens when you lose weight. That's the least of my happiness. I'm just a happy person now.
Yeah.
For now. You
but
never
it's
know.
great to be able to wear your favourite pants too.
Yeah, I know. So then I just decided, like, I'm not like sober forever. Sorry, Ben. But like, I just keep saying no.
Yeah.
And even when I'm like, I could, I'm like, oh, nah. And then I just feel so fine, you know?
So good. And it's also so amazing to hear someone who's kind of done the partying, done the drinking, done the performing on stage, which I'm guessing also makes you feel a little bit more confident because you got a bit jazzy, but then also has gone out there and done the really frightening thing of being on stage in front of thousands of people and had the experience and been able to say, okay, it's just as good.
Yeah.
It's a different type of high.
Absolutely. It's so much better, I think. But also like, you know, each to their own. You never know the next tour. I don't know.
You can be shit-faced the whole time.
Yeah. Life's a journey. I said, guys, I could go back down this roller coaster. It's on a high right now, but life's a roller coaster, so whatever.
Something people might not know about you is that despite the fact that you're married, you live in a share house with your closest friends. Like friendship to you is something that is so important.
It's like you're still in that hostel.
But I
But it's your
love
own.
this because you speak so much about it, but you live it authentically as well. What is your life like now in terms of like living with your friends, living with your husband? How does that dynamic work?
So me and Jimmy had to talk to our friends after we got married because we had a chat. We were like, does this mean we have to? And we're like, no, let's just create our own normal. We don't want any of our friends to leave us. There's no difference. We're married. Yeah, we love each other. We've just proven we love each other a little bit extra than we did before. Big deal. We love our friends around us. We told them we don't want you guys to move out. We have no plans on trying to get you out slowly. We wanted them. We sat them down literally and we're like, we want you to know, like, we love you. We want you to stay. You're a part of this family. So, for example, last night we had one day off. This whole tour, one day off last night. All the boys came round and some of them have got new partners, really cute. We all just watched them.
We love that.
And I put in the family group chat, situationships welcome. And so we had some new faces last night and we watched the footy and we all got pizza. And we just talk about our lives, whatever's going on. And it's almost like if the story of my life was to end now, it would be, and they lived happily ever after, you know? But I know there's more to go, but this is everything I ever wanted.
How many people do you live with?
So I live with Jimmy, obviously, Frankie just moved out. Jack, Ryan is pretty much lives with us, and then Talsy in the other room, and then Daniel lives around the corner, so he's there like every day. And then we're really close with his family. Did a mini Cantonio's. They are looking after my dog Boss right now, and then Gozzy as well is always over, and he's got a new partner Jade, who also plays at the netball club with everyone, so we already know her. And then that's kind of like our core group, but then we like have people that are always welcome, you know?
Imagine going to netball on a Wednesday. There's Tones and I just playing netball in the netball group. Like, we already know her. It's
They
fine.
asked me to be number one ticket holder 3 years in a row, that footy club, and because I said to them, I refuse. Do you know how many old dogs at the club that have played there when they were young, they're always there with beers or whatever, they're gonna be like, what? Okay, you just want this pop girl to come in. So I said no. 3rd year, they've asked me again this year, and I was like, you know what, Jace, fuck it, all right.
It's time.
I'll do it. So
I'm going
now
to get these knees out.
I'm number one ticket holder for Frankston Bombers.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
Because I'm like, you say with so much confidence, and I'm like,
Well, I'm number one ticket holder for Melbourne United, and that means they give me courtside seats every game, which is
Right.
awesome because they're actually in the grand final this week. I'm so excited. But I don't know if Frankston Bombers are going to get me a fold-out deck chair because they already tell me every week. It's so funny because every week you see me walking down the hill with my deck chair under my arm, and I set it up, and then I sit there.
so it's number one ticket holder, but BYO your own deck chair. So maybe if the Bombers are listening right now, G tones up a deck chair. Don't make her walk with her own deck chair.
Yeah, maybe we could nail it into the ground or something.
Yeah.
Make it a permanent one.
Yeah.
Give her a little plaque next to the deck chair.
Oh, I'd love that.
Ready for the B-ball.
Yeah.
So good.
Tones, thank you so much. Genuinely from the bottom of our heart. We were so honoured that we got to speak to you at the live show, and I know I hate to say it, but I had a preconceived idea of who you were, and it wasn't bad, but it just was that you were really shy and introverted. I didn't know how funny you were because you never put yourself out there. I didn't know how articulate and intelligent and deep you can go because we never see Tones. Like, Australia never got to see who you are, and I just fell in love with you at that show. I thought you were so funny
Yeah,
and
we
such a
both
beautiful
did.
human, and yeah, we're just, the fact that you came on today to share with us, we're chuffed.
Thanks, guys. I
You're
love
amazing.
talking to you guys. This has been such a good, like, great, safe first podcast, and there won't be a second with anyone else.
So don't come for us. That's what she's saying.
I mean,
Yeah.
we'll have you back anytime.
I would like to keep working on being more and more open with you guys. I'd like to do it more. Maybe we can make it a thing that, you know, we do. I'm definitely not going to go to another podcast and bare my soul,
Yeah.
but I think if we work on the, you know, maybe we could just
This
slowly.
is like 6-month therapy session.
Yeah.
Sit down with Tones and I.
We want you back
Come
on
in
the pod
here with the
whenever you
therapy
want.
couch.
Also, one more thing. Hey, Tash, I know that you're a massive fan of the girls, so this is for you. Love you. Mwah.
Oh, is that a fan?
That's my sister.
Oh, of course, you told us that at the live show.
That's so cute. Hi, Tash. We love you too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Tones' single I Get High came out 2 weeks ago. It's an absolute banger. So if you haven't heard it yet, get out from under your rock, go and stream it, and you're going to love it just as much as any other song she's ever put out.
And we'll tell you as soon as tickets are available to her tour.
Aw,
As long
thank
as we
you,
get
guys.
tickets first.